All right, geometry. We're talking about 1.4 angle measure. So we're talking angles. We've talked about angles probably before, but we're kind of delving in a little deeper with these angles. Now, before we do anything, we've talked about a few things. A line is something, a straight line like this is going all the way forever in both directions. Okay, a segment is the same thing as a line, but it has two endpoints. Okay, and then what we're talking about today with angles is a ray. Okay, rays have a point and then it goes forever in the other direction. Okay, so a ray has one endpoint and then goes forever in the opposite direction. So angles, if you can see by this picture, angles are formed by two rays with a common endpoint. So if you look at your picture here, there's a ray going that way, there's a ray going that way. They share that point, B. Okay? This common endpoint is called the vertex of the angle. The vertex of the angle. And then the rays, so this part and this part, those are called the sides of the angle. The sides of the angle. Okay, so you always name an angle using three letters. Okay, the middle letter is always the vertex. So in this picture here, the B is the vertex, so that would have to be the middle. But the order doesn't really matter as long as you have that vertex in the middle. Okay, so if you do have one single angle with that letter, though, you can call it just that angle. So like this one could be called angle B because there's no other angles in there. Okay, so when referring to the measure of an angle, we use a lowercase m, which represents measure. Okay, so the measure of ABC is 60 degrees. The measure of angle ABC. Okay, so types of angles. This is something you've probably seen before, something that's probably review. You have different types of angles. So if it is less than 180, okay, so the measure of the angle is less than 180, or not less than 180, sorry, less than 90, so it's less than a right angle. Okay, we have an acute angle. Okay, so this is something like, let's say it's about 70 degrees. Okay, if it's greater than 90, so let's say our x is less than 180, but it's bigger than 90, so it's between the two. Okay, so it's between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. That would be obtuse. Okay, so something like this would be probably about 120 degrees, I would guess. 120 degrees. And then if it's a right angle like this, if it has a box, you know right away that is a right angle. And that is 90 degrees exactly, and that is a right angle. Okay, and then if you have a vertex in the middle and then it goes in opposite directions like that, it is exactly 180 degrees. That is called a straight angle. That is called a straight angle. Okay, so there's our angle type. So between 90 and 180 is obtuse. Less than 90 is acute. All right. So let's move on down here. So name the vertex of the angle. So the vertex of the angle here is whatever that shared endpoint is, which is K. Name the sides of the angle. You always start with the endpoint. Okay, the ray starts with the point, which is K. So KJ is one, and KL is the other side. Okay. Now for the sides, you don't have to have the labels on top. That's kind of optional there. KJ and KL. Give 3 ways to name this angle. So since it's just one angle, I could name it angle K. Or I could name it JKL. Now make sure we're labeling the angle with that angle sign. And then angle LKJ is the other name. Now keep in mind, what's in the middle is the vertex. Okay? And then classify this angle. That means what kind of angle is it? Is it acute, obtuse, right, or straight? And if you look at this, it's clearly bigger than 90 degrees. So that is obtuse. Okay. So example 2, once again, name the vertex. We've got S is our vertex. The sides start with S. SR is a side, and ST is a side. Okay. I'm just going to put those up there, SR and ST. They are rays, but having those labels is okay. Give 3 ways to name this angle. This is angle S, or angle RST, or angle TSR. Once again, making sure S is in the middle, whatever the vertex is. And classify the angle. Notice, since it has a box, that automatically means it's 90 degrees, which is a right angle. Okay? So, a few more things, definitions, things like that. The last one on here is congruent angle. So just like congruent segments, we have congruent angles. So if the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle B, notice I'm using that M there, then we can say those angles are congruent. So angle A, no measure this time, angle A is congruent to angle B. Okay, and that's it. All right, so on to the back side here. On to the back, got a few more definitions here. Angle bisector. So just like segment bisector, when you have something like this where we have a segment and then something goes through the middle and it says it bisects it in half, that means those 2 segments are congruent. Same thing for angles, okay? A ray, so in this picture BD, a ray that divides an angle into 2 congruent angles, is said to be an angle bisector, okay? That's what that is. A ray that divides it into 2 congruent parts. So this angle and this angle are the same measure. So in the diagram, angle, not angle, the ray is BD. So BD is an angle bisector, and therefore the 2 angles are congruent. So angle, and let's name them. So up at in the picture we have this angle here. So name that is angle ABD is congruent to angle, this one, CBD or DBC. CBD. Okay? And again, you can't name those just one letter because B has more than one angle. So if I just called it angle B, you don't know what part I'm talking about. So you got to have all 3 letters. Okay? So perpendicular lines and perpendicular bisector, we'll talk about that later. So let's go ahead and look at example 3 here. We have, write another name for CBF. CBF, okay? So CBF, another name for it, we can't just name it angle B because there's too many. But if we just switch the order, we could say FBC. Name the two sides of EBD. So looking at our picture, EBD is this angle here. So the sides are BE and BD. I was right the first time. Classify angle ABC. So ABC, if you see that goes straight across. So since it goes straight across, it's called a straight angle. It's 180 degrees. Okay, so given an example of an obtuse angle, well, looking at all these angles here, an obtuse angle would be, we got a couple choices, I think, but I've got one right here. We already named it once. That's bigger than 90 degrees. That's angle EBD. I could have also said FBA, that angle there, but either one would work. Oops, I'm erasing something I didn't mean to. Okay, and two congruent angles, if you look at the picture, these two are marked the same. So if you have two angles that are marked the same, we can go ahead and say those are equal. So angle EBA, the top one, is congruent to angle CBF because they're marked the same. And then perpendicular bisector, again, we'll talk about later. So the last one here, example 4, name the vertex of angle 2. So here's angle 2. What's the vertex? Well, it's right there in the middle, T. Name the sides of angle 4. Angle 4 is right here. So here's the side, here's the side. So it's TW and TZ. Okay, so let's name another name for angle 3. So if this is angle 3 here, here's my sides. Again, we want 3 letters. So UTZ, angle UTZ would be that angle. How about another name for 1? Angle 1, again, we want 3 letters probably. So T is our vertex again, so YTX. Don't forget your angle sign. I almost did. Okay, so let's classify some of these. We got to go through our picture and make sure we know what angle we're looking at. So YTW goes YTW like that. And since we have a box there, it's a right angle. Okay. Now look at YTU. So YTU is going this way. That's obviously bigger than a right angle, so that's obtuse. Okay. And then how about XTU? XTU going this way. That's a pretty small angle. That's smaller than 90. So that would be acute. And then WTX. I'm going to guess it's a straight angle, but we'll see. WTX. Yeah, it's going straight across. And so that would be a straight angle. Okay. So name 2 perpendicular lines. We'll do that in a second. But angle bisector, if you look at the labeling here, you can see these 2 angles are labeled the same, right? So an angle bisector is the one that splits them in half, splits that big angle in half. So the angle bisector here would be TU. Okay. So we'll have some more practice with this stuff, but that's classifying angles. We got to be able to classify right, obtuse, acute, straight, and then you just got to be able to name some things. Okay. So like right here, I got to be able to name angle 5. Well, angle 5 is WTY based on the sides. Based on the sides and based on the vertex. Got to really pay attention to where your letters are. So I always like to start from one end of the angle to the next. One end of the angle to the next. Okay? So we'll practice that plenty, and you can go ahead and get started on your 1.4 worksheet. I'll be checking that on Wednesday, and then we'll get on with our next part about angles. Peace.